What is up, folks? This is your boy Dino, aka Solid Five, and you are listening to Beyond the Ether podcast. I have a couple of great guests today from the movie coming out later on called The Ungrieved. So we have Andrew Rolfe and Jennifer Preston. How you guys doing?
We're good.
Great. Hi. Nice to be on the podcast. Thanks for inviting us.
Of course, I'm always happy to talk to like everybody in the industry. So it's fun. So before we get into the movie, let's get a little bit of background on each one of you. So let's go with you first, Andrew.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I mean, so I'm actor producer for The Ungrieved, but I came into the acting industry pretty late. I guess everybody comes into it at different points in their life. Some go to drama
Yeah.
school, and then some come into it later in life in different stages. So I came into it about sort of 10 years ago. Started off as an SA, supporting artist, or an extra, as everybody still calls them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then just started getting more and more involved in the sort of the independent space. A big change for me was really during the COVID years,
Yeah.
when there wasn't too much happening, but there was just an awful lot of like indie horror that was
Yeah.
starting to be kind of shot, and I know you've had a few of those folks on your show already, sort of thing. So yeah, I did. I suppose like 2020 now, I've started getting into the horror space sort of a lot more. Worked with Jagged Edge, Champ Dog, EMRJ, a few of the others that you're probably aware of. Playing different types of roles, different types of horror kind of characters. Killer sharks, killer rabbits, killer
Yeah. Everything you think of, yeah.
everything that wants to kill you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, probably similar to Jennifer, I've done a lot of horror, but I've also done other types of acting as well, more in the sort of the drama space, TV stuff. Spent sort of 4 months down in China in the last sort of
Oh
couple of
wow.
years and shot a couple of sort of big war movies down there.
Yeah.
Playing an American actually. So yeah, you'll have to check my accent out at some
Yeah, I
give
definitely
me
will.
marks out, give me marks out of 10. Yeah, and then I suppose the ungrieved. I mean, just to kind of bring it up to date a little bit, the ungrieved was initially a short film about sort of 2 years ago. Really short, like about 20-minute kind of film, and we were about to do it, and then just things in life kind of got in the way, and we sort of
Right.
parked it. And Jennifer was in it then as well. And then we visited it sort of early part of last year and thought, this is such a good concept. How do we turn it into something a lot bigger? And yeah, and the Ungrieved was born, if you like. So and it's a psychological horror.
Right.
So I guess when we were looking at it and we were writing it, we were thinking of films like The Babadook, Hereditary, Relic, all of those kind of ones, where you're sort of in a family environment and something is happening to the family and you're trying to figure out really what it is and sort of join the clues together and different things are happening at different times. So yeah, so that's where we are at the minute. So yeah, I'll let Jennifer do a little
Well,
bit.
real quick before I get to Jennifer, so like as you said, you starting as an actor later on in life. I'm finally gonna well, I'm supposed to, like I said, mentioned off camera that I'm gonna be going to Florida. So that's gonna be my first like I guess short like cameo death scene I'm gonna do. So I'm like excited about that because I'm
Oh.
42 now and I'm like, oh shit, like I'm actually gonna do it. So
It's
that's
never too late to start.
I know that's why the opportunity came and I'm like I gotta take it. So
Do you know how
Yeah.
you're being killed yet?
not yet. I should know in a couple days.
Yeah, they're always
Ooh.
they're always good fun. I think I've been killed by sharks, like scarecrows, laid in fields with mouthful of blood and the whole shebang.
I
So
told my mom and she was like, "Don't die." I was like, like I'm gonna do it.
well done.
All
Congrats
right,
on that.
Jennifer. Jennifer.
That's amazing. Well, yeah, just a nice segue from that. I also have a mother who just says, "Why do you always die in everything you're in?" But it really is fun. And in fact, I have the accolade of being part of the best death in London Fright Fest.
Oh
We won
shit.
an award for the film hosts. Um, and it is a bit of a spoiler, but I do get killed with a hammer to the head
Oh,
until
cool.
my head is just a mushy pulp on the table. It's a pretty, and it's, just a nice family dinner. It turns very, very nasty. So that it
It's
was
like,
a good
yeah.
death. It was a good death. Um, yeah, so my background, I started acting as a young adult. I did theatre.
Mm,
I didn't do any screen at that time. And then I got to a bit of a turning point. Did I go to drama school or did I go to university? And we didn't have a lot of money, and theatre, there wasn't a lot of money in it. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I should, have a plan B. And most actors will tell you, that you just have to be focused and you have to get on with it. So,
yeah.
but I decided to go and I did a law degree, so very, very different. But I kept acting. I kept acting all the way through, and then eventually I came back to it 10 years ago. I decided to retrain in screen, so TV and film.
Okay.
It's the same principles are there between stage work and screen work, but it's just that the main difference is on screen work, all the thoughts are inside and you just emote them through your eyes, really. Whereas on stage, obviously, you're projecting that out.
Right.
So that was really fun. And then I got to do a lot of horror, which I absolutely love. It's absolutely my favorite genre. And yeah, I did host, as I mentioned, with the brilliant Richard Oakes, who, yeah, is just an amazing DOP and director, and Adam Leader. Then I did The Stranger with Mike Clark and Paul Gerard. That was like a creature feature, but it was
Okay.
also a home invasion that turns a bit demonic with a creature. That's a good one to check out. And I did a film which is more of a psychological thriller, but was at Fright Fest in London, called Charlotte, which the actress who plays Lily in The Ungrieved,
Mm.
it was actually her film that she wrote and directed and produced and starred in. So I got to work with her for the first time in that, and that's partly why Andrew and I knew of her,
Okay.
know what a talented actress she is, so brought her onto this project. Um,
Wait, and who's
but
this?
this is Georgia Conlon,
Oh, okay.
who plays Lily, who plays our daughter, because Andrew plays Paul, I play his wife, and then we have, yes, he's signaling to his backdrop. Yeah, she's an amazingly talented actress, and she's also in the film Charlotte, which is was at Fright Fest, and it's a very dark and disturbing thriller, so definitely also worth checking out. But I've done some sort of mainstream stuff like Wheel of Time.
Mhm.
I was just in The Family Plan, which is an action kind of comedy with Michelle Monaghan and Mark Wahlberg. So I've done some mainstream stuff too. But yeah, my heart belongs in horror. I love the sticky blood. I love the heightened emotions, the screaming, the terror, the crying, all of those things you will see in The Ungrieved.
Yeah, horror is great because like you can do so much. Like you can do anything with horror. You know, like you can make it funny, you can make it scary, you can make it psychological. Like you can. There's like so many different avenues you can take, and that's what I love about horror too. You know, and there's like a whole universe you could always expand on as well. So
Yeah, and actually, another film I forgot to mention, Law, which has the great horror guy Richard Brake. He played I don't know, you might know him from a few different films, but he played the King of the White Walkers in Game of Thrones, and he's got a great horror face and style. Anyway, I was in a film with him called Law, and it was basically an anthology of four different horrors in exactly the different genres that you described. So one was kind of funny, one was a creature feature, one was like dark and demonic, and then the one that I was in was the haunted, creepy house.
oh cool.
So yeah, and for horror fans, it's brilliant, isn't it, to experience all of those different genres, I think.
I'll definitely check that out. Real quick before we head on to the movie. So do you while you were doing theater, you know, a while back, did you have like any favorite like horror stories during performances, you know, like where somebody fell off stage or something, you know, something crazy?
Oh my gosh, there are so many stories that are funny that come out of the theatre. I think one of them um would probably be I was in Tom Jones, which is like not the Welsh singer. But
Okay.
it's like an 18th century romp, I think. Anyway, we had these, low cut dresses, these big dresses, and you need to really have like a big bust in them. But I didn't have it naturally. So they put in these things, they call them birdseed. So you fill in a stocking with birdseed and you tie it up, and that becomes your little silicone push-up bra. You put that underneath. But when I was on stage, I got thrown onto the bed by the baddie.
Yeah.
I then get rescued by the hero. But as I was thrown onto the bed, my birdseed popped out,
Oh
scattered
no.
across the stage. So the audience were just bombarded with birdseed. Meanwhile, I was wonky in the dress department. So yeah, but the show must go on, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
there are so many stories like that. I think theatre's great because you just have to soldier on.
yeah.
With screen, it's a little bit different because at least you can shout cut and
Right.
start again.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Um, so how did this project come on? Like, well, Andrew, you said this you guys had already started planning on doing the short, and then so you want to expand on it. So like, how did that start originally?
I think, like a lot of actors, sometimes you have to create your own content.
Yeah.
You kind of you pull things together and you look at people you want to work with, and you can sort of hang around and wait for something to happen, or you can create your sort of own vision and your own content and what you want to kind of get involved in, and that's really where it kind of started. I sort of co-wrote it as a short, say about 2 years ago. It was called The Crossing at the time.
Mm.
Slightly different, crossing as in crossing over, and the
Right.
ambiguity crossing over. Yeah, and it was a sort of it was a sort of, I would say it was more kind of a family drama at that point.
Okay.
It was quite intense, but it was more kind of a family drama. And then when we, as I said, I sort of had to park it. Life gets in the way, and sort of revisited it last year and started to think, okay, I've done a lot more horror work since then. Um, Jennifer, we've all been in a lot of horrors that are much more sort of slasher, much more sort of blood based.
Right.
So we've all been heavily involved in these, but it was about thinking, okay, what could we, in the independent sort of reasonably low budget space, what could we do that was slightly different? And we started to take inspiration, as I said, from a lot of the sort of the psychological horrors out there, where it's a lot of practical effects. It's sort of the intensity of a couple or a family or children that are in some kind of traumatic, chaotic state, and they're being attacked from something. And we started to think, like, what could we do within the sort of the indie space? Obviously, being aware of the sort of the budget level that we were operating at as well. And we sort of expanded it. So we took what was originally sort of probably quite a serious family drama and a little bit tearful at the end, to this whole sort of supercharged psychological scenario now where, you have just to sort of touch on the storyline a bit, you have a family, you have the Ellis family, which was my character Paul, Jennifer's character Rachel, Georgia was playing Lily, who Jennifer just mentioned, our daughter. So there was the three of us, and we had lost, or our son had disappeared. Our son Tom had disappeared whilst we were at my character's parents' house
Right.
about sort of 7 years ago. And the story kind of opens where you see them sort of back in London. We filmed it, in my flat kind of here. So, trying to be creative with what we could,
Yeah.
what resources we had available to us. So it kind of opens, you understand pretty early on that this family is quite fractured, and there's sort of stuff going on, and they're together but they're not together. And so
Yeah.
the first sort of act, the first 20 minutes is just about setting that kind of scene, understanding what sort of happened previously, but also planting the seeds in some of the visuals that it is very much in the horror space. So there are some things that happen within that sort of first 20 minutes that start you thinking, and okay, there is something going on here that is really uncomfortable. And then my character's father passes away. I won't say by how, because that is part of one of the little
Okay.
twists in it. And the family is sort of forced to go back to the house, and whilst they're there within the sort of first sort of day or so, they start to see their son again in different formats. And I think is it your character Rachel that sees Tom first of all? I think it's you or Georgia. So
Yeah,
it's
I think she sees him, but she also starts to hear him. So there's
yeah,
all these sort of
yeah, yeah,
creepy things that start to happen. It makes me think of Haunting of Hill House, all the little creepy things that start to happen and things that they see, but they can't trust quite what they're seeing. These things around the house that appear and out in the garden. It has this really sort of sinister darkness to it. But of course, Paul doesn't want to know anything. Doesn't believe in it. Whereas Rachel, my character, is really hoping to find her son, however that is, in this life or the next. I think she's just desperate to hang on to something.
Well, just answers, right? I mean,
so,
answers in
so
general.
that's really what is sort of happening. And as I said, it's a slow build, like most psychological horrors are. So
Mm.
things start to happen. Um, my character's mother is also quite a big part in it. So that was played by the lovely. My fingers disappeared, but
Nicola?
this lady here, Liz Rowan, who
Oh,
is
okay.
a wonderful actress. So she was playing the grandmother character. And we soon start to realize that there's things going on with her as well connected to their sort of lost son. So yeah, if you like, as I said, if you like the sort of slow build and you're trying to put it together, I guess, if you like is is he still alive? Is he a ghost? Are they dreaming? And there's different things that kind of give clues at sort of different points.
Right.
Um, and then there is obviously quite a big, I would say, a big climax at the end, and we took a lot of inspiration from things like The Exorcist and The Conjuring within the sort of the last 20 minutes of the movie. And there's a climax, and then I would say there's almost like another conclusion as well.
A little
Um,
twist, maybe.
little twist in the tale that has you thinking, oh, okay, what, and to start thinking about the story again and like, what did you see and when did you see it and that kind of stuff as well.
Okay.
But yeah, we had an amazing house that we rented up in one of our counties up here. It's called Norfolk. So the cast and crew slept there. There was about 18 of us.
Oh, wow.
Uh, you know, multiple sharing multiple bedrooms and things. So we were basically filming in that house during the day for about a week. So we'd kind of film all the scenes. This is the joy of filmmaking. All the scenes that were in the lounge, for example, that may have taken place over like sort of 6 or 7 days in the story. We filmed sort of in one day, and then we would move and film everything in the bathroom. That would be throughout the story as well.
Right.
So yeah, but it was fantastic. I mean, we were really lucky to get that location. Yeah,
Yeah, and
How long
every
did it take you
creak,
guys to film
every
it?
every stair creaks.
How long was the filming?
So we did 3 days in London. We did then 6 days in this country house, and then we did what's called like a pickup day. So
Yeah.
that's when you kind of you're putting it all together, and you think actually, there's a few extra bits that we think if we filmed them, they would just really embellish it.
Yeah.
So that was just creating some moments that we hadn't captured, but also we got a lot of drone shots. So we had a drone operator, and we
Okay.
started to get a lot of those big overhead landscape shots, a lot of car shots that really make it feel bigger than it is probably as a film. So it was 10 days in total.
Oh, wow. That's fast.
It is.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
it
was
is.
very intense, the schedule, but I don't know, sometimes that's also really fun. Um, because it's an intense film. So you forget if it's day or if it's night, and
Mm.
you have to, as an actor, and I'm sure Andrew, you'll say this to yourself, you have to be so prepared because you're going not through the story in a chronological way, but you are having to figure out where your character is. Are they like really terrified at that in that scene that you're about to shoot? And then maybe you'll do something from earlier in the film where you've just arrived and everyone's calm. And so you have to be really prepared because you have to know kind of where you are in your journey and how heightened your emotions are at that point, what you know and
Right.
what you don't know. Um, but it's challenging as an actor, but it's very rewarding as well. And I'm really pleased with what we produced.
Yeah, and it's so just to what Jennifer said. It's so important in a psychological film, where you are watching these characters, the nuances of the characters, you're watching them deteriorate, you're watching, different moments of conflict sort of arise. So Jennifer says, sort of understanding where they are at any given time is important, which is really tough, as I said, when you're filming, say, 20 shots in the living room, and they're all, they'll be at completely different points within the film, and
Right.
you're trying to remember what you've just done, and as Jennifer said, like emotionally, where is your character at that moment in time? So
Yeah.
we were
Our
really
director,
at the end of it. We were really,
our
I
director was,
remember, like, yeah, on the last
yeah.
day, I think we finished about 1 o'clock in the morning, and we were literally like, oh, can we just do like another 10 minutes and another, whatever. And
But
we
I've got
also
to say, I just want to do a shout out to our director, though, David Gregory, who was so on it, and really had such an amazing vision that Andrew had, shared with him up front. But he then had that so clearly in his mind. He was almost editing as he was going along in terms of thinking, how is this going to play out and the story? And I think you need someone like that when you are filming at such intensity. And
Right.
also, this story is very layered and complex. There are a lot of visual clues to what's going on. It's a house full of secrets. And also, there's this, fine boundary really between madness and the supernatural. And you're always questioning, I think, as an audience, is the family descending into madness? And if they are, which one of them is mad and which one of them is real? And yeah, what is there something else supernatural going on? So that's a lot to keep in your mind as an actor, but you need a really good director to keep that all in place. And he did an amazing job, I think.
yeah, I think we were very blessed to have an incredible cast and crew on it in overall. As I said, there was 18 people shoved together for nine
Like
days.
sardines. Yeah.
Yeah, for 9 days, and I think, touch wood, we pulled it off. I mean, you've seen the film, Jen, so in a rawer version, and yeah, it's in a good place. And we also had, Lucas, Lucas Alaman, who was playing our son. So Lucas was playing Tom, who had disappeared 7 years
Right.
earlier. So he appears in flashbacks and things, and he's incredible. I mean, I'd worked with him in one of the Winnie the Pooh movies. He was in the Peter Pan
Mm.
Neverland Nightmare movie kind of fairly recently, but
Love that movie. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
he's
he's
the
very talented.
he's phenomenal. He is phenomenal, and he just got it right. I remember when David met him for the first time, and I think Lucas is about 10. I think he's about 10. And I think we'd both worked with children actors before, and I had worked with Lucas before. And David was, I think, going to obviously be very careful about dialogue and how you work with a child,
Right.
and there are lots of safeguarding that kind of comes with that. And then he met Lucas, and Lucas was like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna throw myself there. I'm gonna get stuck into the totally happy." And I remember David came off the Zoom and was like, "That Lucas isn't like any other 11-year-old that I've met." Like, no, he is going to go far. He's a really talented lad.
Sometimes I
Yeah, he
forget.
is.
Sometimes I forget like the energy of like younger people because like we had Luke Speakman from Weapons, a little
Oh,
while back, and
Oh,
like
cool.
he was like so full of life and just like jumping all over. I was like, whoa! Like I forget how like what is he like 10 or 11? I forgot how old he is,
yeah,
but
yeah.
he was so vibrant, and I was like, Jesus! Like I can't even match your energy. It's crazy.
And that's
Yeah,
what
it's
happens when you
fantastic.
get older, isn't it? That's what as actors you're always trying to go back to being that child again, but you
Yeah.
built up your filters and just life and things like that. But yeah, I mean, it was great. Lucas was fantastic. So big
We
big fan.
also worked with a really great stunts guy, Zach,
Mm.
on the film, because there were a number of really cool stunts that you'll see if you watch the movie. And it it was very important, obviously, when you've got a child, and also
Yeah.
for everyone, just to be really safe. And he kept everyone safe. He was excellent.
Yeah,
Because I've heard some horror stories of as far as like, you know, well, it's not really in the UK or the US. Well, yeah, not really in the UK or the US, but like more like other countries where it's like it's not I don't know, maybe there's just different guides as or like safety concerns more than, than like some other countries. So like I've heard horror stories about people like getting hurt and stuff, from like doing not having the right, like uh whatever it is,
I mean, I've worked, and Jennifer, you may have as well. I mean, I've worked on some Bollywood movies, and I've also, as I said, I shot a couple of movies down in China, and yeah, I think their approach to health and safety is very different. You can
100%.
find on, yeah, yeah, and obviously the US is very heavily unionized.
Yeah.
UK, is pretty much on top of health and safety when it comes to actors,
Mm.
as well, and union bodies and advisory. But yeah, you can certainly go to some countries. I mean, I remember I shot some war scenes in this China, in a couple of China movies, and we'd walk through it with the director, and then would film it, and nobody had told me there were going to be explosions going off around me as I was like running through this building, and stuff was literally landing on my head. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? I was just having to like stay in character in the moment, and I was like, yeah, it kind of would have been nice to know
A
that
little heads up. Yeah.
brickwork.
Not literally. Yeah. I can
Yeah,
imagine just you running like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, just
honestly, literally. I mean, and they had so many because it was a war movie. They had, oh my god, like hundreds of supporting artists,
yeah.
that were playing military and things. And I did hear somebody broken arm and things like
Oof.
that. So yeah, there were
And you
things
can't
like
just like
Yeah.
reshoot it right away. You have to. It takes a while, to like clean it
yeah,
all, all that stuff. It's
must
crazy.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Jennifer, how did you land on this project? How did you just audition for it, or was it?
Well, Andrew and I have known each other for, I don't know, is it about 6 or 7 years? Um, we've been following each other's work, mutually admiring what each other has been doing, especially in the horror space. Um, and Andrew shared the initial Crossing short film with me, the
Okay.
script. I really liked it. I was on board. But then when he was talking about it, I could see that there was he thought there was so much more potential. And I could also see that there was a lot more potential. And then you sat down with the wonderful writer, created this really layered, interesting, kind of twisty turny script, which and what I particularly love about it is that the characters, you do care about them, you care about the family. And I think that sometimes, and I'm all for a horror where it's just a body count, we
Yeah.
all love that as well. But this is a bit more, I don't want to say sophisticated because I wouldn't necessarily say it's that, but it's just more that the characters are well written. And as an actress, that's always really exciting. But as the audience, I think it's really good that you are invested in the family and
Yeah.
you want to know what's going on and you're curious and what are all these secrets that are unraveling and is the mental health unraveling? And it's just really interesting to watch, I think. So yeah, I was completely sold. Um, and I do want to tell you a story about the place we were staying in though, because it was quite haunted.
Oh, I was gonna get into that with you guys.
But we will talk about that at some point. But Andrew's a non-believer, but there were some weird things going on.
So like as far as horror goes, like I actually do like when you invest more into the characters, So if a character doesn't have any kind of personality, I just most of the time it kind of turns me off to the movie, Like unless it's
Mm.
like a slasher, then you can get away with it, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
And
but
then
like
that's what to expect. And you're
right,
just like, oh yeah, another great death. But you don't really care about the actual person who's being involved. And that is, a specific type of genre and it's really good fun.
yeah,
But as an actress, I think, I love to have a meaty storyline and an arc and a different emotional path. And we had some really, really good actors who understood the depth of their characters. And I think that's what gives this film, one of the things that gives this film um, a lot of interest because it does go into this family and this complicated dynamic and what's going on with them. And, obviously it's a mixture of grief and confusion and not being able to move on with your life when a child goes missing and you don't know what's happened to them. So that's at the core of the film as well, and how
right.
that affects all of the different family members and how it affects their dynamic. Um, and especially Paul's mum, played by Elizabeth Rowan, as we said, who presents with dementia, but we're not sure if it really is dementia. And that's one of the other things that kind of we unravel in the film.
Mm.
So we don't know what's real and what isn't, which, yeah, it makes it really cool. And I think it's the type of film that you could watch a second time and just see a whole load of different things.
I love
And
that
it's
in films because there's a lot of films like that. Like Weapons is one of them. Like I watched twice in the theaters, and so like my co-host was like, dude, once I watched it the second time, there's so many like clues like leading up to
Right.
yeah, and I was like, oh, I didn't see that. Like, and I generally like to see, I always try to find stuff early on because I'm the kind of guesser, I'm
Me
like I know
too.
who it is, you know, and so I do enjoy those like little like Easter eggs, and
Yeah, me too. And sometimes you don't necessarily spot them the first time, but when you then understand how it unravels at the end, then you kind of want to go back and see what did you miss. And
yeah,
honestly, Andrew, in terms of the writing work that he did with Michael and the eye to detail in terms of the edit, which he worked alongside David on. I mean, it's just been incredible, and he's really teased out those little Easter eggs and those little details, which have made it, yeah, especially powerful, I think.
it's worth saying so Michael Farrell is the sort of the writer of this. So I co-wrote The Crossing with him when it was a short, and then kind of he's a much more talented writer than I am, and basically I kind of worked with him a little bit, but he ran with it. So it's pretty much his screenplay. But yeah, Jennifer's right. There are so many little nuances kind of throughout it, and some we were able to capture in the performance. Some we captured as we were shooting. Some we captured on this pickup day. We realized there was a couple of things we'd missed, so we shot those specifically. And some we're picking up really just on the sound design. Some of the
okay,
noises and things that we're linking and the themes that you think, didn't I hear that earlier on? And now I'm hearing the same thing, but in a slightly different format. We've picked that up with the sound designer as well, who a guy called Simon Simpson, who's Sean Simpson, sorry, who's doing a fantastic job. Because on a psychological horror, when you're not throwing blood at the audience every 10 minutes, you have to be able to create these moments, where people are genuinely scared of
right,
what's happening, and sometimes you'll see things and sometimes you won't. So the sound design of it, just a little creak or the theme of a noise or something, or the ring or how something echoes, all of that plays such an important role. But Jennifer, I was just going to say on Liz, so you were just talking about the cast that we had. So Liz, who played the grandmother, we have a guy called Greg Berkhamsted doing our musical score, and he did it for Bambi. So
oh
he's
okay,
done, yeah, and he's doing Pinocchio. I think he's doing maybe one of the other ones coming up. Um, but when he watched the film for the first time, just to do the musical score of it, he said that there were two moments that Liz just brought him to tears,
mm.
which is just, it's great to have that. It's, we want people to be scared as well, but we want people to connect emotionally with the characters, and Liz did such a fantastic job.
Yeah,
um
really
you'll
did.
see you'll see when you watch it, but yeah, she was a cracker. She did really well.
Well, I feel like you have to, like, especially with like a family, driven drama, or whatever you want to call it. But like, with family, we already know that family's already hard, most of the time. So, or at least for a lot of us,
Yeah,
there's a lot of
Yeah.
already fractured families. So, to dive deep into that, you kind of have to have some performances like that, to
Mm.
drive the story,
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And it's worth saying as well, we have, I try not to miss anybody out. We have Nicola Wright, who I
yeah, I
think
had
has
her on
been
the
a,
show. Yeah.
so yeah, Nicola's a good friend of ours. So Nicola is playing my character's therapist,
Okay.
and then she also helps the family later on in the story. She helps them sort of navigate what is going on, or does she? I don't know.
She helps them navigate what she thinks is going on.
Yeah.
exactly. She gives one explanation of what might be going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, we had her on. I think we had her sometime last year. I forgot when it was. Yeah,
Yeah,
she's wonderful.
yeah,
I
she's
saw
lovely.
her interview. Yeah, I saw her podcast. It was very good.
Jennifer, you had mentioned that when you guys stayed at the house, or you guys at the house, there was some like spooky stuff going on. And so Andrew, obviously, you don't believe in spiritual stuff like that,
No,
but
I do. It was just I was just laughing. Jennifer knows that I do, because I see a spiritualist and a medium as well, so I do. But yeah, I think was it in the first sort of few hours of you being there or something? I think
Yeah,
with George,
honestly.
right?
Well,
Hold
well, when we got there, actually, we'd gone ahead as a sort of party to just check the house out, make sure that the lights worked and stuff like that.
right.
And we got there, and there was almost like a mist surrounding the house. It was like there was just a creepy atmosphere when we walked
Mm.
through. It was bone cold as well, wasn't it? Because the boiler hadn't been on. So we had to go through each room and just check the lights and stuff, and a couple of bulbs didn't work, but it just had this dim, really ice cold feeling to it. So I was just like, okay, well, we're here, spirits. Don't be sad that we're here because we're just coming and we're respecting the place. But yeah, and I think Andrew just had too many things on his mind because he had his producer hat on, he had his lead actor hat on. So I was there to be concerned about the spirits. But it's like this beautiful manor house and in this tiny village. But it's a huge house with so many different rooms and like a real labyrinth actually. So that kind of makes it a little bit more creepy. But
Right.
also
on.
the
I was
main
just going to
part of
say,
the house.
oh, you can't.
No,
Uh,
the background keeps
yeah, there's a
all the
little bit.
stairs.
Yeah,
It's this incredibly, it's I think the main part of the house is sort of 14th century.
Oh wow,
And then they built other bits onto it. But it's like between the 14th and 16th century, this house.
wow.
Uneven floors, uneven ceilings, everything creaks, everything moves. Mysterious leaks kept happening in the house that we couldn't explain and then would suddenly stop. There were thousands of ladybirds that would just cluster in certain parts of the house as
Uh,
well, which
that is
was
creepy.
kind of strange. And then just suddenly like take flight and fly into your face. I was sleeping up in the attic, and that was definitely an area where there was some stuff going on. Georgia and I were sleeping up there. And honestly, we laugh about it now. But in the middle of the night, I got tapped on the shoulder awake, and I was like, "Guys, what is it? Am I snoring?" And they were like, "Wasn't us." Anytime anyone was on their own in the kitchen, strange things would happen there. Coats would just suddenly, fall onto the floor, but nobody was near them, or bags would tumble across the floor and whole contents would spill out, including some seashells in Georgia's rucksack, which she didn't own and hadn't been put in there, and nobody knew anything about. So that was strange. There were signs that, props that moved around the house that nobody had moved. Yeah, there were just a few too many unexplained situations for me. But I think might have had a little poltergeist, a cheeky, naughty You had one in the middle of the night, didn't you? You had your
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure I saw something running across the room that I was sleeping in the night.
Shadow.
Yeah, there
and the
was
sound of scuttling, and then the your window pane was like rattling really violently before the shadow went across the room.
yeah. I think we had the whole immersive experience with that house, both on screen and off screen.
I mean, it certainly added to the experience, and nobody came to any harm. So,
Andrew, did you have any experience with stuff like that before uh going to the house?
Um, no, I mean we did a recce of the property, and it's really hard to find places that haven't been modernized.
Right.
Because we got it on an Airbnb, and everybody is like when it sleeps that amount of people. I think people are thinking, well, it'll be for a wedding party, it will be for a stag do or something like that, and so they're all kind of modernizing them. They're putting hot tubs in them and everything. So it took a while to find something kind of like that, but yeah, so happy to find it. I mean, it just it was the kind of place where you could have just aimed your camera anywhere and it would be like, oh, that frame looks amazing. You know,
Yeah.
this looks amazing, or there was an antler or something, or a cracked window. And all of these little things we got to kind of drop into the film, to give it that kind of thing. So it was fantastic, fantastic location.
Not
But
to diminish the work of our amazing cinematographer and DOP.
Or our set
right.
designer as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. But what I mean, I would echo what you're saying, Andrew, that the house itself was so historic and atmospheric. And because it looked as if somebody had been living there and just stepped outside to let us in, really, rather than being a typical Airbnb. It just meant that our set designer and dresser was able to just create it from all the things that were there. Um, yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
But
And
but to
there was so much content there that we could use as well, right? As Jennifer said, it literally somebody wasn't living there. They were obviously renting it out, but there were just blankets. There were millions of cushions everywhere. There were lamps.
Books,
So we were just books.
pictures.
We were constantly just finding little gems that we'll be like, oh, we'll put that into the next scene. We'll make something about that. In the story and everything. So yeah, we really fantastic location. Fantastic location.
so Andrew, did you have any like experiences with like ghostly stuff before filming though? Like, I mean, before going to this location, in your younger life, did you ever go to a place and you were like, "Oh, I saw something move," or whatever the
It was
case?
just yeah. When I think back as a kid, I remember there was one time where I think it was just I think I must have been about 8 or 9, and my nanny died kind of quite young, and I remember being at the house, and I had to sleep. I was sleeping there with my family, I think, during that time, and I'm sure that my nanny came into the room and sort of stood there. I just remember this shadow
Mm,
kind of like near the bed. Um, and I was so young, it could have been a dream. I didn't necessarily process it, but that is the thing that I always think about is like, I'm sure my grandmother kind of came to visit me shortly after she passed. Yeah.
Mm.
what about you, Jennifer?
Yeah, actually, something very similar happened to me with my granddad, and I was probably about 8. But I was quite scared of that actually, because I heard somebody walking along the corridor, and I saw the shadow as whatever it was coming into the room, and I wasn't welcoming it. It frightened me.
Right.
Um, but I find that I'll go into certain places and I'll just feel like an atmosphere or an energy coming off the
Yeah.
place. I don't know. I feel like my theory is that it's sort of echoes of the past. It's like things rebounding off the wall. And I even think that the ladybirds, for me, are a signify, spirits.
Right.
I kind of believe in all of that. And I don't understand it. I don't claim to understand it, but I definitely feel good energy and bad energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I would say that the house didn't have bad energy in it, but it had a mischievous poltergeist who was playing with us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
which is
which,
perfect for our film.
yeah, 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 because
You're not filming today, moving this. Yeah.
exactly. Things just kept moving all the time that shouldn't have been moving, and then they would be miraculously back in the same place sort of 2 hours later.
So I grew up in a haunted house, so I know like I've experienced everything. I've seen mostly a full figured lady walking across our living room. I've seen shadows. I've heard noises. I've heard voices. I've had those like shakes in the middle of the night where like somebody grabs your shoulder and shakes the shit out of you. You know, things like that. Like things flying off the walls. So the whole
Wow.
works. Terrifying as as a kid. Even
Yeah.
Do you still have Do you
you
still
know,
have the house with your family or no?
no, but the property's still there because it's supposedly in my hometown. It was a mortuary, like way before, and they built a house. They just like renovated it to a house. So, but they used to like keep bodies in like the basement and stuff like that, and
Uh,
just to like
Oh my
prep for the next day.
God.
is,
And
is
but
every
that
horror
house,
film This is
Oh,
every horror film from the 80s
I know. I
being
wanted.
built on, a mortuary or a Indian graveyard or a something graveyard
It
or a pet
totally is.
cemetery.
Oh my God.
I wanted to
That,
do like a photo shoot there because but I don't know the people that live there now. But that's the
Yeah.
only house that's the only house on the street that's original. Everything else has been knocked down and
Right.
renovated. So or rebuilt. So I think
yeah.
that's it's kind of like a landmark, because I have to look into it, but yeah, it was a wild place. Even my friends and family all experienced things, like
Yeah.
so it's
Well, no, I believe 100%.
and I feel energy
I,
too like you do.
yeah. So is that why do you think you have a love of horror? Is that what's led you to do what you do?
No, I'm gonna beat a dead horse at this, but so back when I was, I don't know, somewhere between like 5 and 7, I don't remember how old I was. My brother convinced my mom to rent that movie Faces of Death. I don't know if you guys have heard of that movie.
Heard of it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so it was very controversial when it came out because it was like instead of like it being an actual horror film, it was like watching like real people die on film. So it was just
Yeah.
like a series of like incidents, train wrecks, like everything. And so my brother convinced my mom to rent it because when he rented it, it was just a box with like a skull on it that said Faces of Death. And so there was like no description really about it, not even a rating because this is the early 90s, like or late 80s, I think early 90s.
The video nasty.
Yeah. And so, I was that young, and so I don't know how my brother convinced her to do it, but my mom was very naive, I guess. So she rented it and I snuck out of my room to watch it. And it like terrified me because I've never seen anybody die before, like really die.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
like really messed me up. And then I ran in my room, started crying, blah blah blah. And then my mom went into the room and she's like, it's okay, like this is just like what we call Hollywood stuff, like it's not real, So she like kind of like fixed it right then and there. And she's like, this is all just like movie magic, like this is what you call special effects, blah blah blah. And
Yeah.
so that kind of like turned on a switch in my head, like, oh. Like if that's not real and like not really scary, I mean, yeah, it's a little bit scary, but if it's not real, like I can watch anything else and be fine with it because it's not gonna get me. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where my love of horror film started.
That's a
Um,
cool story. I love it.
yeah, but the ghost stuff still scares me sometimes because like I feel the energy some still to this day where some places I go. And so, yeah, there's even some crazy stories recently, but that's too long to. Um, but to add on to your theory about, like echoes of the past,
Yeah.
I have a weird theory about how, how like when we die, our spirit leaves, right? And so like our
Yeah.
energy leaves our body, right? So sometimes I think that like, there's a lot of places on Earth that has like a really strong magnetic pull like
Yeah.
on parts of the land, So I think that sometimes our spirits get stuck there because it's not able to leave. So that's why sometimes like you'll see somebody walking around the same spot for many years because it's like a vinyl record that gets stuck, and
Yeah.
so it plays back, you know.
Yeah. I like
So,
that too.
but again, theory, I have no proof. It's just one of those things.
I've got a vision of the Psycho House now as your family home when you
It was actually a very small house. It was like, a two-bedroom, and then they added a third, I think. Yeah, it was a two-bedroom, and then they added like a backspace and stuff. It was very
Brilliant.
small, but we worked with it. It was you always heard creaks and everything too. It was an old house, So
Yeah. You and the 50 ghosts that you lived with.
yeah, I mean, even like my uncle before he moved out, he was like, "Oh, dude, I just saw a guy in the room like standing at the corner," and I was like, "I was like, sick."
Man,
um,
that is creepy.
yeah, it's not fun. So when do you guys expect the Ungrieved to be released?
Yeah, so we're almost at the final stage of sort of completion now. So we've got the picture lock, the sound design,
Mm.
uh, color grading. So we're doing a lot with that sort of at the minute. So we're looking first to kind of get into festivals.
Right, right.
So kind of get some buzz. So we're going to do Fright Fest over here. We're looking at Fantastic Fest and Scream Fest over in the States to try and get them over there as well. So that will be the first sort of part of it, and then we've been speaking to some sales agents, which is good. So it's about finding the right one. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
we know we can get it on sort of Amazon Prime or something like that. You know, and because that's where most films will obviously sort of end up. But we're hoping to kind of maybe get it on a little bit more sort of premium channels as well.
right.
Be a little bit like obviously they've Scott's been able to do with the Pooniverse stuff. You know, it's had a slightly different approach, I guess, to marketing and everything than some of the earlier stuff. So yeah, so I would say hopefully by the end of this year. I mean, it would be lovely to have it coming out at Halloween. You know, that would
Yeah,
be
yeah.
the perfect
That would
the
be yeah.
perfect time. You know, and maybe get a small theatrical run as well. So it's a bit of a moving feast at the minute, but we want to test the festivals and see how the audience lands with it.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go to Fright Fest, because I know like,
Massive,
but
yeah.
I'm never out there, so it's like,
Yeah, it's huge over here, and I mean I would love for them because I've been speaking to them already. I would love for them to either do the UK premiere or the global premiere
right.
for us. I think that's August. I think that would be the first one. It's around about sort of late August
Yeah, yeah,
time. And then yeah, so yeah, that would touch wood. That would be I think we'll get it in it. It's just at what level can we have
right,
it sort
right.
of shown at? So yeah, for sure. But yeah, by the end of this year, fingers crossed.
Well, I hope if you guys ever make it down here, we would love to check you guys out because
Yeah.
yeah, I can't wait for this movie to come out. I'm because like after I interviewed Nicola, like she was already like you guys were in production at the time, and
Right.
so she was like posting about it and stuff, and then I saw like the crowdfunding and stuff like that, and so
And thank you. Yeah, I was going to say it was on. I made a note somewhere. Thank you so much for like contributing to our campaign as well, because all of the part of it. When you're an independent filmmaker, you have to pull financing
right.
streams together in different ways. So we had some investors, and then we're looking at the British government do like a tax credit program for
Mm,
filmmakers in this country. So we're hoping to get some money from that. We got about I converted about $9,000 from the online campaign, which was great. So yeah, there's been so many so many people have helped contribute to this. So yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much for
yeah,
being one of those.
I wish it was more, but but
So
Yeah,
yeah,
every little counts. It's very much appreciated.
yeah,
yeah, I've been really on top of that crowdfunding thing. It's been amazing because I've been able to contribute to other projects. So it's
yeah,
like it's been cool to be a part of like certain things. Um,
yeah, 100%. And we hope we hope to have a trailer by the end of sort of next month. So we'll happily share that with you and more stills and things like that. So there'll be more promo coming out sort of in the coming months for it.
yeah, I will be glad to share anything you sent us. We've just been so busy with everything else. It's like it's hard to remember sometimes. Like sometimes people have to nudge me to be like, hey, like can you just do that real quick? I'm like, oh yeah, sorry. And it's like because I think I have like 4 episodes I still have to put out and stuff like that. So it's just been like, yeah, we've been
There's
just
so much independent horror coming out as well, right? There's
yeah.
so
Yeah.
many
Good
great,
quality independent horror. Yeah.
really, really good stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Have you seen? I don't think it's been over here yet. Undertone. I'm really wanting to see that.
No,
That seems
my co-host just watched it.
really. What?
Um,
How was it?
he said he liked most of it. He said the ending, like I guess most endings are always kind of a letdown. So that's what he said about the movie. Um, and I was interested in it too, but I haven't had time to go to the theater because I've been, busy with this and actual work and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
you know, but I heard it was interesting. It's a good different take on horror, which is always nice.
yeah. And I think it sounds like it's been one of these breakthrough ones. A bit like Paranormal Activity back in the
Right.
day. Where it's made for. I think Undertone was made for about 500,000, but it's grossed 15 million or something so far. So we didn't quite have the luxury of $500,000 budget. I'll be honest. We're hoping ours will punch up anyway.
Well, I mean, some of these, again, low budget films are like they gross crazy amounts of numbers. I mean, We saw the
Mhm.
Pooniverse. The Pooniverse exploded. And
Yeah.
they made a ton of money just on a very small budget. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
they
just never
did
know.
amazing.
And some of these huge productions make nothing. You know,
Yeah.
so it really
Yeah, they
depends
lose
on
money.
yeah, it really depends on your team. And like just the calls and what they do on the movie and whatever behind the scenes. You know,
Yeah, you realize, I mean, I think when you, as I've, done with this one, got a lot more into the filmmaking side, you realize, that a film can be amazing or it can be bad based on every single aspect of the filmmaking process. If the
yeah,
writing's not great, if the acting's not great, if the effects don't land properly, if the color grading or the sound. So, so many times you watch things and the sound isn't quite right, kind of things. There are
yeah,
so many kind of things that you have to line up, I think, for a movie to be successful. Particularly if you can't get an A-lister name in it, it has to rely
yeah,
on everything else that kind of comes together. And we're all competing with so much stuff out there now. I mean, Netflix is dropping stuff constantly.
Tubi, yeah,
Yeah, Tubi, all of these streaming platforms. Amazon. Everybody's getting their product on Amazon these days as well.
hmm
So you really have to try and, I guess, take care with what you're creating. Do you know what I mean? And
right, right,
Mm,
treat it, which is what we're trying
mhm.
to do. Treat it at a slightly higher level, give it a bit more polish. Market it in a slightly different way. And hope that people latch onto it. And have an interest in it. Want to talk about it and things like that. So. Yeah, it's tough, but we fingers crossed. But we're pretty confident. But then I am biased, so.
Well, I can't wait for it. Do you guys have anything coming up lined up else besides the Ungrieved?
So I'm doing a small cameo in the new Pinocchio movie
Oh,
when that
sweet.
comes out. Yeah, so I think it's about my eighth or ninth movie that I've done with Jagged Edge. So I've kind of, yeah, I've done quite a few with that.
They're
So
pumping them out, yeah.
and Richard Frake, Jennifer, who you mentioned, plays Geppetto in that. So he's in that one.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, he's really good. Yeah.
yeah. He's fine.
No, I'm just I've done a few bits of filming this year already, which I can't really talk about yet.
Right.
Um, but yeah, there's a few things, a few irons in the fire.
Nice. Yeah, I saw that Robert Englund's gonna be in. He's Jiminy Cricket from
He is. Yeah,
which is amazing.
yeah. Which was and the trailer's come out. The trailer looks great as well.
Yeah,
So
I can't wait.
all,
This would
all
be good.
credit to all credit to Scott and Reese, who I'm sure you're aware of, and what they've sort of built with their Jagged Edge sort of product production house.
Totally. Um, that's all I got for you guys for today. But as soon as the trailer drops, as soon as I'll start try to share more stills and stuff like that. I know I'm a little behind on some of these things, but I'm all about supporting you guys, and I can't wait for the product to come out. You hit some festivals and stuff like that. So
Thank
um,
you.
if you guys have any
Thank you.
socials you guys want to drop, you go ahead and say it now, or I can put it on the description below. Otherwise, I usually just like drop ours, verbally.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, the production company is Tranquilmoon Productions, so people can pop onto the Instagram account or Facebook account, and we're pushing more and more content out from that as well. So yes, please give us a follow.
Tranquilmoon Productions.
All right.
There you go.
And for those that listen to us weekly, we are Beyond the underscore Ether on Instagram, and my personal account is Kelly underscore DTO. Um, for those that listen, I've been helping sort of get some of these projects off the ground, and also you'll be seeing me on screen next year. So
Yes,
Yeah.
good luck with that.
Luck with
see how I
that.
get
Ah,
murdered. I don't see how I get murdered. It's gonna be a vampire movie apparently, so
ooh.
I'm excited for that. I'm not a huge vampire guy, but hey, I'll take it. And if anybody wants to email about how much they love my beard and how beautiful this face looks, you can email us at boocrew2025@gmail. And until then, I'll see you guys next time.
Right, so
All right,
Thank
good
you for
day,
having
guys.
us.
take
Bye.
care.